Imagine capturing that disposable nostalgic camera feel without the need of spending a fortune on disposable cameras. This is the Light Leak lens from Polar Pro, and they sent this lens to me to test it out. I do get to keep this lens, but I will give you my honest feedback on what I like and what I dislike about this lens. I will give you lots of photo examples and video clips so you can see if this $129 lens is worth your investment. The design itself is super dope. I really like the colors and the size of this lens. This is a 28mm version, but they also have a 60mm, which is even smaller, and a 50mm. And the 50mm is double the size of this one right here. But I only have the 28mm at the moment. All three lenses have a fixed aperture of f11, and this 28mm right here has a fixed focus range from 1 meter till infinity. The standout feature of this lens right here is the ability to shoot in-camera light leaks through a small opening in the design. You can dial in the strength and the direction of this cool customizable effect. Besides that, this lens also gives you an autofocus area of 40%, giving you that very dreamy look. And the roll-off is actually pretty smooth as well. And on top of that, there's also some built-in diffusion added into this lens. And as you can see, there are also some threads, so you can also fit filters on this lens right here. Now that we've got the main specs out of the way, let's talk about the most important aspect of this lens, and that's the results, of course. I'm going to show you examples of photos that I liked and disliked. And while I'm doing these, I'm also going to talk about the pros and the cons of this lens. I'll also be showing you the before and after so you can get a feel of what the unedited images look like. I think the first photos look pretty cool already of this tunnel. There's lots of contrast in the image, and that's something that I really like. And as you can see, the hue of the light leak itself is bluish, so your photo is going to be cooler when you use the light leak feature. In this shot with the horizontal lines from the tunnel, you can clearly see that there's some distortion going on, but I don't really mind it since that's part of the character of the lens. Black and white edits also go very well together with this lens. Just look at this edit. If you didn't know that this was shot on digital, you probably couldn't tell. And by looking at the lights in these tunnel shots, you can also clearly tell that there's some built-in diffusion in the lens. And one of the great things of the lens as well is that it's super small, it doesn't weigh a lot, so you could perfectly use this lens as an EDC lens. Over here we have a couple of different photos, and I really like this one of my bike, and this is what I mean with that your image can get a really dreamy look because of the out of focus areas in the edges. It almost makes some images look like a painting. I really like how some of these photos just look so dreamy. It's almost like I did some special kind of editing in post, but I really didn't. I just did some color grading. And I also actually really like the color reproduction of this lens. I don't see any weird things except for some vignetting in the outer edges. And here's one more shot of the Lotus Electre that I shot at my job, which looked pretty cool as well. So here are a couple of shots that I didn't like combined with the cons of this lens. Maybe it's just a composition, but I really didn't feel like the character looked good in this photo right here. Same for this one in the tunnel. The light leak is just way too harsh, and that's something that you have to keep in mind with this lens because it can be too harsh. Luckily you can dial in the strength, but it obviously won't work that well for every single photo and every single scenario. Same in this image, I feel like the light leak itself looks way too blue and it makes the entire image cooler. I think it would have been cooler if the light leak used the color of the lighting source. But I saw someone taking photos using a red flashlight and pointing it into the light leak opening, and then he was actually able to create some red light leaks. But I just feel like it's a bit too much hassle because turning the lens to get the right amount of light leak and to get the right direction is already pretty annoying in my opinion. And also the 1 meter focusing distance can be a bit annoying sometimes because sometimes you just want to be able to get closer, but that's just a thing with disposable cameras and it's not necessarily the fault of this lens. So I feel like the out of focus area is just a bit too much, like you can see in these examples. I feel like when there is a lot of texture in an image that the autofocus areas just look pretty bad and everything kind of looks muddy and mushy. Here we can see some other examples where the light leak can look really bad. And over here we have these pretty weird artifacts going on that I didn't really like. And this lens is not really an autofocus lens, but it's not a manual focus lens either. It just has a fixed focus range from 1 meter till infinity. And I don't always feel like the till infinity thingy actually works, because sometimes when you shoot a subject that's too far, I still feel like it's not really in focus. It would have been pretty cool if they would have been able to make this lens like an f5 or an f4, because then this lens would have been more usable in more areas and in more instances, such as for indoor shots where there's not too much light. Overall, I would probably use this lens for 99% of the time without the light leak feature. Sometimes the autofocus area is a bit too much, and you can clearly tell when you're trying to shoot two subjects next to each other. Like here, for example, the two Lotus Elytras next to each other, you can clearly see that half of the car is just out of focus, and that's not something that we really would like. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about the character of this lens. And something else that we can do to our image to make it less digital is add a diffusion filter. So we have two filters over here, and they're both a hybrid of a circular polarizer and a diffusion filter. One of them is a quarter strength filter, and that's the everyday filter, and the other one is a half strength filter, and that's the polarizer / mist filter. The naming is a bit confusing, but then you know which filter has which strength. My favorite one is the everyday one because I find the half strength a bit too strong, and that's probably the one that will live on my camera the most of the time. This is the image without any of these filters. This is the image with the everyday filter, so a quarter strength. And as you turn the filter, you can see that the light of the computer screen gets cut out of it and the screen just gets completely dark. And this is with the Polarizer X Mist filter, so actually the half strength filter. Polar Pro is an amazing brand and makes one of the best filters in the market, and I have nothing negative to say about them. If you're bored with your current camera kit and you're looking for something new and fun to play around with, then this is the right lens for you. I think it's a super fun lens with a very interesting character. And this lens really transforms your digital camera look, and in some instances your photos almost look like a painting, and same for the video. So this might be your next everyday carry lens, who knows? And if this lens isn't the right one for you because of the downsides, such as an aperture of f11, then I'd highly suggest you to invest in some vintage glass such as the Helios 442, because those are super fun to shoot with and you'll learn some actual manual focusing, and the character that you can get out of those kind of lenses is just simply beautiful. If there was a second version of this lens, then I'd recommend to remove the light leak feature and improve the f-stop to f4 or f5, for example. And it might also be a cool idea to dial in the autofocus area instead of having the light leak effect.